the dusty wind blew across the barren plains, lifting the loose straw scattered in the yard of the old wooden farmhouse. The sun hung low, a golden coin melting into the horizon. Inside the small house, a girl sat in the corner. Her dress stretched across her round belly. Her name was Clara, barely 17, soft-hearted and gentle. But her world had turned into a storm the moment the townsfolk learned. She was with child. Her mother, Miriam, a woman hardened by years of poverty and whispers, stood by the window, arms crossed, face stiff like old leather. To the world, she was stern. To Clara, she was a wall she could never climb. The shame of a pregnant, unmarried daughter was too much to bear in a small town where everyone's eyes burned like torches. And tonight, that shame would be sold away. The sound of hoofs thundered through the evening air. Clara's heart clenched. She knew he was here, the giant cowboy who'd answered Miriam's desperate bargain. A man known only as Bear Johnson. Folks called him that not just for his towering height and broad shoulders, but because he carried the strength and silence of a creature that feared nothing. When he swung off his massive black horse, the earth seemed to groan under his weight. Dust clung to his boots as he approached the porch. Miriam stepped outside, wiping her hands on her apron as if washing away sin itself. "Evenin', Mr. Johnson," she said flatly. His deep voice rumbled back, "Miriam." Behind her, Clara rose slowly, her breath shallow. She wasn't beautiful by the town's shallow standards. She was big, round, soft, and often the cruel target of the other girls' snickers. But beneath her trembling hands lay a heart still yearning to be loved. Her baby shifted inside her, and tears burned her eyes. Her mother turned, voice sharp as broken glass. "Get out here, Clara. Don't make me call twice." The girl shuffled forward, clutching the sides of her dress as if it could shield her from the reality waiting outside. When Bear Johnson's eyes fell on her, Clara felt small, smaller than she'd ever felt before. He didn't flinch. He didn't smile. He just stared at her with a gaze that felt both dangerous and steady, as if he was weighing her soul. Miriam cleared her throat. "We had an agreement," she said. Bear reached into his satchel and pulled out a small rope. Behind him, tethered to a post, stood a speckled cow with calm, slow eyes. "The cow," he said. His voice carried like a hammer striking wood. "For her." Clara's stomach churned. She wasn't being asked. She was being traded. Her mother didn't even look at her. She took the rope, nodded stiffly, and said, "She's your problem now." It was done, just like that. No tears. No mercy. Just a deal between two people who'd stopped seeing her as a daughter or a girl, but as a burden. Bear's hand clamped around Clara's arm, not cruelly, but firmly, like someone claiming what was theirs. He led her to his horse, lifted her effortlessly, and swung himself up behind her. She didn't fight. She couldn't. The night air grew colder as they rode away, the small farmhouse shrinking behind them like a bad dream. She wanted to look back. She wanted her mother to call her name just once. But all she heard was the creaking of saddle leather and the steady beat of hooves. Bear's ranch sat at the edge of the prairie, far from any town. The house was big, sturdy, and silent. A single lantern burned by the door. He dismounted, then turned to help her down. When Clara's feet touched the ground, her knees almost gave out. "Come," he said simply. She followed him like a ghost. Inside, the house smelled like pine, leather, and wood smoke. A fire crackled in the stone hearth, throwing light over the room. He didn't speak much. He pointed to a chair. "Sit." She sat. Her heart pounded so loud she thought he could hear it. He poured water into a cup and set it on the table. "Drink." His voice wasn't kind, but it wasn't cruel either. Clara drank, though her hands shook. She'd expected a monster, a brute, a man who'd look at her like a prize pig. But instead, Bear moved like someone who'd spent too long alone. His silence wasn't cold. It was heavy. After a long moment, he said, "You cry, girl." Clara froze. No. Sir. He grunted. Don't lie. The tears came then, hot and uncontrollable, streaking down her face like rain on dusty glass. She just gave me away, Clara whispered, her voice cracking. Like I was nothing. Bear leaned back in his chair, watching the flames flicker. World's cruel, he finally said. You either break or learn to stand tall. He didn't reach to comfort her. But something in his voice, a deep steadiness, kept her from crumbling completely. Days turned into weeks. Clara worked around the ranch, feeding animals, cleaning, learning the rhythms of a place that belonged to no one but the wind. Bear didn't demand anything of her except honesty. He was quiet, but when he spoke, his words mattered. Slowly, she began to stand a little taller. Her body, once mocked, became strong from work. Her cheeks, once wet with tears, found warmth in the morning sun. Bear never touched her without permission. He treated her belly with the same unspoken respect he gave the land. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, Clara stood outside, hands resting on her swollen stomach. The baby kicked gently, and she whispered, "You'll be loved. I promise." Behind her, Bear's heavy boots crunched the dirt. You talked to it, he asked. She nodded shyly. Good, he said. Means you're already strong. She looked up at him then, really looked. Beneath the rough beard, the broad frame, the storm-weathered skin, there was a man who'd been alone far too long. And in his quiet way, he'd given her something she hadn't felt in months, safety. The night her labor pains began, thunder rolled through the plains. Rain poured against the windows as if the sky itself was roaring for her. Bear didn't panic. He stayed by her side, wrapped towels, stoked the fire, whispered rough encouragements. Breathe, Clara. Don't give up on me now. Hours stretched like years. But when her baby's cry filled the house, it broke the storm. Clara held her child, a tiny, perfect miracle, and felt a surge of strength she didn't know she had. Bear stood a few steps away, his massive hands clenched, eyes wet. She'd never seen him cry. He didn't look like the men who'd bought her for a cow anymore. He looked like someone who'd been given a second chance too. Later, as the fire burned low and the baby slept in Clara's arms, Bear crouched down in front of her. You're not a burden, he said gruffly. You're mine now. Not as property. As family. If you'll let me. Her throat closed. No one had ever said those words to her. Not even her mother. She didn't need a grand gesture. That single moment wrapped around her heart like a warm quilt. She nodded. From that night forward, the prairie didn't feel so empty. Clara walked taller. She spoke louder. The girl who'd been traded away like a shameful secret became a woman who built a home from pain. Bear never tried to change her, never asked her to shrink or be small. And every time she held her child, she whispered a promise to herself she'd never let anyone trade away their worth. Again the baby's soft cries filled the cabin as dawn painted the prairie gold. Clara moved gently, cradling her daughter close. Her heart still fragile but stronger than before. The girl who once cowered in shame now stood barefoot on the porch, the wind brushing her hair as if welcoming a new life. Bear stepped outside too, his massive frame blocking the rising sun. Coffee steaming in his hand. He didn't speak, but the way his eyes softened on the baby said everything. Clara no longer felt like someone who'd been bought, she felt like someone chosen. Life on the ranch settled into a rhythm. Bear worked the land while Clara tended to the animals, her laughter beginning to echo through the wide-open fields. At night, they shared quiet meals, no longer strangers. She had found a strange kind of peace, not from being rescued, but from finally feeling safe in her own skin. The people from town still whispered when they rode in for supplies, but their words didn't burn her anymore. She'd learned to look up, shoulders straight, holding her baby like a shield and a crown. One afternoon, her mother came riding up the dusty trail. The woman who'd traded her for a cow looked older now, her eyes hollow from guilt and years of bitterness. Clara, she croaked, voice rough as gravel. Clara's heart twisted, but she didn't step back. She wasn't that girl anymore. Why are you here, Mama? Miriam's hands trembled. I thought. Maybe you'd come home. Clara almost laughed, a quiet, sad sound. Home? You sold me like livestock. Miriam's eyes filled with shame. But Clara's voice was steady. This is my home now. And I'm not your shame anymore. Bear appeared at the door then, arms folded.